South Africa is in the grip of an electricity shortage. The state power company Eskom recently implemented what it calls stage 6 of power cuts, or load shedding as they call it locally. But even at stage 6, many South Africans are without power for up to 10 hours a day. And the country's hospitals are not exempt from the power cuts. My next guest, a physician, has decided to do something about that. Professor Adam Mahmoud joins me now from Johannesburg. Welcome to DW News Africa, Dr. Mahmoud. Can you tell us how Eskom's load shedding affects the work you do and what that means for the patients you're treating?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. So I think the various stages of load shedding have various impacts, and now we're currently sitting at stage 5, almost touched stage 6, and worried about even impending disaster. So an example of my hospital when you have load shedding is the computers go off, the CT scans go off, and everything takes a little while to restart. So that does put a delay in getting access for the patients to this radiology. And then the second challenge is when you have load shedding, you don't have access to getting the results from what the doctors are putting up. And then there's delay in results of patients actually getting those results. That's a very simplistic way. The generators that we have were installed for power outages. They were never envisioned for load shedding, which means hours on end. My hospital, we're spending on average 800 to 900 liters of diesel a day when there's load shedding.
And for how long is this? How long are these power cuts?
So it can range from 2 to 4 hours, 2 to 3 times a day, at any time of the day. So our average now is currently 2 to 4 hours a day,
right,
times 2 to 3 times a day.
And what does that mean what does that mean for the equipment you use?
So when you're having these outages, you're going to damage the UPS system and the computers. And also our scans are quite fragile and old and should not even be in use. They actually end up having much more problems. Right. Our circuit breakers, the DB boards, have to be changed quite significantly. And our overload circuits are also being changed. So we have power surges when the power comes back on. And then you're having equipment that takes us a long time to get replaced, going out, and then we're again at the disadvantage and mercy of treating our patients.
Right, and very quickly, so you've started a petition. You're calling on the government to do something. What do you want from the government, very quickly?
I want the government to exempt hospitals from being load shed. It's happening in the Western Cape, which is one province from South Africa that doesn't load shed their hospitals. I want our government to exempt all government hospitals, big public hospitals, from load shedding to protect the patients. That's all I'm asking for.
All right. Professor Adam Mahmoud in Johannesburg, thanks for the work you're doing and thanks for taking your time to speak to us.
Thank you so much.
Now, load shedding is a dreaded term in South Africa right now. The power rationing is affecting homes, public services, and even business. A disaster for Africa's most industrialized economy. Our correspondent Adrian Krish sent us this report.
Una Nonwazi loved to come here for work. This was her laundry shop in Springs, close to Johannesburg, and she had up to 30 customers a day. But first she was hit by the pandemic and then the constant power cuts. She had to leave, a barber's shop moved in.
Gives me goosebumps to see this is where I started and this is where I lost everything. So.
Only 2 customers remained. Nonwazi is doing their laundry from home now. Her shop, her machines, her 2 employees, all gone.
The future looks bleak now. I am angry with the government because they will send schedules to say, you know what, electricity will be off at around this time to this time. And you try and work around that. But still, they will change out of the blue.
Checking the load shedding schedule became a daily ritual for South Africans. Basic infrastructure like traffic lights is down. Many businesses and factories are forced to close. Others get generators or improvise. The crisis has been brewing for a decade. The state power utility Eskom has been blamed for mismanagement and corruption. Despite growing electricity demand, crucial investments haven't been made. The power utility is heavily indebted, despite several government bailouts in the past.
For years, South Africa failed to build new power plants to replace the aging ones that often haven't been maintained properly. Now, maintenance challenges and breakdowns are causing massive load shedding. The nuclear power plant behind me, for example, has been in operation for almost 40 years.
There's no end in sight to the crisis. Those who can afford it invest in renewables and inverters, but in one of the most unequal societies in the world, only a few can. Una Nonwazi doesn't want to give up. She's saving money and looking for an investor to buy solar panels and get her laundry business started again.
Most of the ailing power generation capacity was built long ago. I discussed this with Rusa Moleshe, a development finance specialist with more than 20 years of experience in energy and infrastructure in sub-Saharan Africa. And she explained why the system had not been modernized.
We got to this point because we did not build enough new capacity to be able to meet our demand. As you correctly pointed out, some of the power plants are quite old, dating back to 50, 60 years. The new ones even, we have the recent ones which are less than 10 years. But in terms of those plants, we've had problems as well with defects in terms of when they were built. So our problems are not just about the old ones.
The load shedding is currently, stage 6. Stage 5 and 6 have been immensely disruptive. We could be on to stage 7, possibly 8. What would that look like?
That would be really bad because that means that Eskom has to shed about 7,000 megawatts of capacity. And currently it's already having an impact on our economy, and everywhere else, everybody is affected with that. And South Africa is having issues in terms of economic growth. So this will have a dire impact on the economy.
Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa was on this foreign tour. He's supposed to be at the UN General Assembly this week, but he had to cut that short to come back home to deal with this problem. What possible emergency measure would he be able to pull off?
In terms of emergency measures, there's not much really. We are talking about getting 1,000 megawatts from already existing plants, from private generators in South Africa, and also from the region to try and plug in the gap to allow Eskom to be able to replenish the peaking power capacity, which is your diesel and hydropower, in order for the system not to completely collapse. But in terms of longer term issues, building new capacity will take a long time. So we have long lead times, so that will not help us.
You talk about building capacity over a long time. That's an overhaul that the system needs, right?
The system needs an overhaul because we are currently decommissioning. We've decommissioned the Komati coal-fired power plants. We are planning to decommission quite a few by 2030. That means that we desperately need new reliable capacity to help us in that regard.
And is the ANC government to blame for this whole mess? I mean, they've been in government since the end of apartheid.
That's a political question, but of course, yes, the ruling party has the responsibility to ensure that we have security of supply in the country, and that has been a challenge for many years, and we still don't have a credible plan on the table that will address this issue. So definitely a lot of people would say that is the case.
Okay. Rusa Moleshe, Development Finance Specialist, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.